Hello, my name is Ashley, this is Food for Ratos, and welcome or welcome back. So in today's video, I'm going to be chatting to you about viewer submissions of their rat cages. Now, I've made videos like this in the past, and they always go down really, really well with my audience, and I love making them. I love seeing other people's cages and getting some inspiration and offering pieces of advice that I feel might be beneficial for the owner and for their rats as well. Now, please don't take any of my advice or critiques in a mean-hearted way. They're absolutely not meant to be that way. They're meant to be personal pieces of advice that I think will help you and your rats. If you disagree with anything that I say in this video, I am always open to discussion and debate. Do leave it down there in the comments so that I can see it and we can chat about it. Okay, let's get into it. So the first cage is the most recent submission, and I actually have some that are quite old. So when I get to those, I will give a caveat that this is quite an old submission, so things might have improved anyway since then. This one is from Phoebe, and I think this is Phoebe that I know. Hello, Ashley. For the purpose of context for your video, my main group of boys normally live in an SRS 95, which I've submitted for previous reaction videos of yours, lol. But I thought I'd submit a ferret and a Coco large setup, currently each home to a pair. The ferret has my recently neutered boy and his brother awaiting reintroductions, and the Coco has my babies awaiting introductions. I feel like these cages I haven't seen as many submissions for on your previous videos, although my memory may be wrong, so thought they may be helpful. I'm also not the best at setting up ferrets, I feel, and it was my first time setting up a Coco, so happy for tips, lol. P.S. Yes, the ferret door is upside down, but it was like that when we got it secondhand. We've never been able to physically get it the right way around, so I assume it's a dodgy one. Let's have a look. So here is the ferret. Now, this is a really typical cage that people will get when they first get rats, especially if they get them from a pet shop, and it's an untearable cage. It's got a decent footprint, and the base at the bottom gives you a decent amount of substrate. I would always prefer more, but when you're working with, and I know Phoebe's been having a lot of struggles with intros going wrong at the moment, so I absolutely feel for you, and I'm really sorry that your rats are giving you such a hard time at the moment. As I was saying, the base is a decent depth, so I would say if you can fill it up a little bit more, do, but I do understand that we're working with not ideal situation anyway. Critiques on the actual layout: you've got great things in there. You've got one hammock. You've only got a pair of rats, so we definitely don't need any more hammocks, and I know we've talked about this before, too many hammocks. We've got ropes and a tie holder and these circles. I never know what to call accessories that have these like circly things on it. I would say, just looking at it, I can see you've got a couple of perches. The two main things that I see missing here are a branch, like branches, and foraging toys. Now, that doesn't mean they aren't there. I would say add in a couple of foraging toys. And the other thing is branches. I love my Java branches, but you can also just, get them from the woods if you know what sort of wood that is. I have a couple of big Java branches, and they go across and down, and that keeps them really stable. So that might be an option in a ferret, because I know it's not the most strong cage that there is. The other thing, and I know this is probably not really possible because most people don't have like multiple wheels, but in a small cage like this, I really like to give my rats a wheel if at all possible. And I know this is a temporary situation because you're hoping to get everyone together again, but if you did have a spare wheel, I would add a spare wheel into this cage, just because it is quite small, and it's not like unsuitably small, if that makes sense, but it is smaller, probably smaller than what they're used to. It's not a bad cage layout by any means, but there's definitely things that I would personally add in there that are part of my usual repertoire. And I do understand if you're used to setting up a certain type of cage, that when you get to a different cage and it's different, it is hard to set up. I definitely have experienced that. But with practice and experience, you get better at it. So I wouldn't worry too much. And here is the Coco. And we've got a pretty similar situation here. I think I would add in something that goes across, like some sort of fall breakers, probably a tie holder. I think a tie holder fits quite well across a Coco. I think I've used them before in Cocos. And again, branches, that's probably the biggest thing that is missing here. You've got ropes and other sort of like perches and stuff going on, but the one thing is branches. And I think this would make your layout, one, more full, so they can access more of the space in the cage, but also it would fill the space, and in your head I think you would feel better about it. So those are my main pieces of advice for your cages, Phoebe. Thanks for sending them in. So this is from Matilda. Hi Ashley, I love your videos. Thank you. My name's Matilda and this is my cage for my 6 male rats. They're aged 9 months to almost 2 years old. Their names are Cherry, Kiwi, Mango, Lychee, Wasabi and Kimchi. I don't remember the exact measurements, but it's the large Pet Planet rat cage. They also have a big playpen that they go in every day. I've included some pictures of my boys too. Thank you so much for reading. Let's see. Ooh, that sounded really weird. I apologize. But this is a really great example of what I've seen and mentioned in other videos, is that if you want to have a deep base in your cage, but you don't or can't spend the money on perspex, you have cheaper alternatives. And this is one way that you can do it with like the Sogomatic grids. You can make a deep base that works well for your rats on a budget. And I think some people think the only option is perspex, and it's not. And this goes to show that you can be a bit creative with it and it still works out. Now, I wouldn't recommend this type of tray if you're wanting to be bioactive, because I don't think this is going to hold in water. But for regular substrate, this is absolutely a perfect thing to do and works really well. I know people who've had this for years and never had a problem with it. You've got lots of different types of enrichment. You've got a hide at the bottom and a Spudnik. And one hammock, that's pretty good. You've got some wine racks in there. I know that, IKEA one. And this little bridge are going across the middle. Did you make this yourself? Because this looks like toilet roll tubes. That's really clever. Yeah, that's really cool. The one thing I'd say that I don't see is foraging toys. Is that a foraging ball up there? I would add in a couple more foraging toys and like chew toys if you can. But this is really great. And one other thing that I would add is, personally, I would add a wheel into this cage since there isn't one. It's absolutely not a necessity. And when I give my recommendations, I will try to distinguish what I think is a necessity and what I think is an added extra. And a wheel will always be an added extra, especially if you can't get like a proper sized wheel. 12 to 16 inches is necessary for rat. But yeah, it's a really great setup, and I've used ingenuity to create the base, which I think is really great. Let's have a look at the boys. Oh, an agouti in a Burger King box. You know the way to my heart. Hi Ashley, here's my cage. It's an Aventura 124 by 92 by 64, home to my group of 10 girl rats. 17-month-old sisters Poe, Pumpkin and Boo, 11th-month-old sisters Ember and Elf, 10-month-old sisters Fig, Pet and Juniper, and 4-month-old sisters Crowley and Crookshanks. The cage has everything from a deep green mile base, foraging toys, java branches and bamboo bridges, to natural wood branches from my own fruit trees and homemade wooden hides. I swap and change a few things around each week, such as litter trays, hammocks, baskets, foraging toys and chew toys. I change the whole layout during deep cleans. I'm really proud of our naturalistic cage, and a bio base is my next project. There are water bottles on the right, not visible on the photos. We also have a large free room area that is cluttered just the same, but with more toys such as cat tunnels, water toys, big boxes with pom-poms, ball pits, etc. I'm excited to see. Wow. Again, this is another person using that really ingenious hack of using the panels to create a deep base when you don't have or you can't access perspex for whatever reason. I think this is really great. And there's lots going on here. There's a couple of hammocks, different hides, foraging toys, natural textures. This is great. I don't really have anything to add to this. I think I don't see a wheel. So like that would be my only piece of advice, is to add a wheel if you can get one. It's not a necessity, as I've said a lot, but I think it would definitely add something. And also in these cages, you can see that she's using things that are not necessarily made for rats as well. So we've obviously got the bamboo edging, which is something that I use. But in one of these pictures, I'm trying to find it, I spotted that the litter tray she's using literally just looks like an organizer box, like a clear organizer box. Yeah, that's really great. I love it. Well done. This is, I don't have any critiques. Again, adding a wheel would be great, but it's absolutely not necessary. And if you're getting them out a lot and you have a free roam area that is similar to your cage, I think you're doing absolutely wonderfully. I think this is great, Sophie. I really don't have any pieces of advice. I just love it. And I am a sucker for naturalistic as well, so that really does speak to me on an emotional level. Hi Ashley, I hope you're doing well. Here is pictures of my rat cage for your video. It's an Aventura rat cage measuring 92 by 64 by 160. I think it's the same cage that was in the previous one. I currently have 2 boys housed in it, Pan and Otto, who are around 8 months old. I just wanted to say I love your videos. They're very educational and interesting. I do wish to improve my cage, so I hope you can give me some ideas. Thank you for watching my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. Okay, let's have a look. So let's start off from the base. I can see that you've got a perspex tray or a tray of some sort there in the base. This means you can add in way more substrate than you're using, and that would be my first port of call. And if at all possible, I would make this tray even higher, probably double the height, so that you can add in more substrate. So that would be my first thing. Then my second thing would be to address how many hammocks that I see here. I understand that you're probably using this one going across as a full breaker, but at the top of the cage, we have a cube hammock, a double hammock, and a flat hammock. And you mentioned you only have 2 boys. They really do not need this many hammocks. So I would just go down to 1, and you could use this space and you could give them a different type of bed just so they can have a choice. But they definitely don't need these 3 hammocks. This one here as a full breaker, I can excuse, but up at the top, I don't think that's necessary. So add in ropes, different types of perches, that would be good. I can see that you've got foraging toys and chew toys and lots of things going on. I'm not sure at the bottom, this black thing, if that is a dig box. I think it might be. But again, if we add a deeper tray and more substrate, I think having a dig box in that circumstance then would be not as necessary. Although I do like using different sorts of substrates, and having like an extra dig box can give you that option. Now, in the middle, I can't tell really what's going on because I can see things and they look like they're floating. Is this the middle tray? If you've got the middle tray in, my advice, once you have lots of different sort of branches and ropes and stuff and other cage accessories, my aim probably would be to take out this middle tray if that's what that is, because it's not necessary and it does stop you from doing such an active layout. But yeah, let's summarize my point. So less hammocks, deeper substrate, and take out the middle tray when you've got enough accessories to fill the cage. Let's have a look at the pictures of your rats. Very cute. Oh my gosh. On to the next cage. This is from Kayla. Hello, this is my cage for my 3 little ladies, P, Audion, and Odette. P and Audion are around 12 months old, and Odette is 7 months old now. Their cage is 139 high, 79 long, and 52 wide. The bar spacing is 2.3 centimeters, so I had to wire the cage to prevent any escaping ratties. Thank you so much for making all your videos you have on caring for rats. These are my first rats, and I learned a lot of what I needed to know to care for them from you and Emiology. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that it helped. That is why I make the videos that I do. So, if I'm not mistaken, this is the cage that I used to have, that this is the feisty ferret cage. And as you said, the bar spacing is pretty wide, and especially for does, it is necessary to cover. So, there are 2 major things that I would change about your cage, and if you've been watching this video, you probably know what they are. The first one is a deep tray for substrate is absolutely necessary for rats. I know that sometimes it may be easier or more aesthetic to use like fleece or bath mats, but it's not appropriate. So that's my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is to take out the middle tray, and this will allow you to do a much more active layout and add in like bigger branches and more ropes and things like that. So that is really my piece of advice for your cage. And secondary to that, some little pointers. You mentioned that you had 3 rats, and I can see 1, 2, 3 hammock, a hide in the middle, and a Spudnik. So I would probably get rid of 1 or 2 of the like bed options, definitely one of the hammocks, and probably one of the others as well. Now, and on zooming in, I can see that you do have a dig box here, and that is great. It's great for added enrichment to the cage, and I would say, especially given your setup, it is necessary. However, I would say it is much better and much more natural for them to have the entire cage be diggable, because they can't really make burrows in a small dig box like this. They can explore the digging, but they can't really have the opportunity to burrow. So I would say this is a good temporary solution, but substrate across the whole base, and deep is really necessary. So I really will emphasize that piece of advice that I gave. Your girls are very cute, and I can see that you really care about them. Their cage is really clean. I don't think that you don't care about them, but those are definitely two major things that I would say about your cages. The next email doesn't have a name attached, so I'm just going to read it. I have 5 boys living in a double critination, 36 by 24 by 63 inches, with a plastic paint mixing tub at the bottom. This maybe clues me in that you're in America. Walter, Alfie, and Blue are 19 months old, and Henry and Clovis are 4 months old. My favourite items to use are seagrass mats, IKEA tie holders, rope nets, and lava ledges. I also recently discovered these wooden ladders on Amazon that look kind of like wine racks that are really good for filling space on the sides of the cage. Let's see. So your cage is looking really, really full, and that's great. Tie holders, cargo nets, seagrass mats, a couple of hammocks. I like that little seagrass hidey at the top. Those wine rack looking things are really useful. I would say those trays that people use in critinations are really great, and they do give you room for a decent amount of substrate. However, I personally don't prefer these. I think making your own tray, whilst it's a bit more work and maybe a bit more effort and maybe a bit more cost associated, I think you can give them deeper substrate using those options. And also these trays, they go in at the side, so you're actually losing quite a bit of floor space that way. So I personally don't prefer them. I know it's what's accessible in the States, but it would be something that it's something that I would recommend against if at all possible, because it's not that deep and you are losing quite a bit of floor space, as you can see. The other thing that I would say about your cages is there's a lot of baskets. Now, I'm not saying baskets aren't a good thing, and definitely I would have some of them, and I think some of them might be litter trays and such. But all of the baskets, I think maybe you can change it out for something different and have a bit of variety in your cage. But other than that, it looks really great, and I know that you are doing your absolute best. And it looks like you get them out as well because you have this ramp, so you must be spending a lot of time with them. It is a great start, but there are definitely some things that I would change about this cage. The next cage is from Caroline. Hi Ashley, I'm sending a couple of photos of my girls' cage for your reaction video. Currently 11 girls, the eldest 32 months old and the youngest pair 11 weeks. Biggest group I've had in the cage was 13. I think this is a little Zuventura, which is the cage that I have. Your girls are really cute, and I love seeing your posts in Ratwise, Caroline. So thanks so much for sending your cage in. So we have a lot of ropes, branches, going in lots of interesting directions, which I think will help them with their agility in different ways. So that's really cool. Is that a hanging plant pot? That's really clever. Lots of baskets with hay. I love this rope with the pieces of fleece coming off it. My question is, do they chew them off and use it for bedding? I think that's really clever. So critique-wise, there's not a lot. I think it's a very active layout, and I know that you take absolutely great care of your rats and you're really invested in rats just in general, because I know you're part of Ratwise. The one thing that I would say would make your cage amazing is to have a deep tray for substrate. The little Zuventura does come with a little tray that you can put a decent amount in, but I definitely would say adding a Perspex tray, or as we've seen other people use, the Sogmatics panels, or even cardboard that you're using here, would make this even better. And that would be my piece of advice, is to add something that you could make a deep tray with. But other than that, it's really good. I don't have any major critiques, so well done. The next cage is from Emily. Hi, here is a recent cage setup. Sorry, I only have one photo. This cage houses 6 books of mixed ages. I've kept the middle floor in because it's more accessible for me due to my disabilities, but I've still tried to provide as many climbing opportunities as possible. Let's have a look. So, I really like that you've got a deep tray in the middle as well. If you need to keep the middle tray in for your own personal needs, I do understand that, and I'm not obviously going to recommend it here. Looking at your cage, I see that you have the middle tray in, but you also have the little shelves. Now, personally, I think if you have the middle tray in, you don't also need the shelves in. And if you take at least one of these shelves out, you'll be able to create a much more active layout that you might struggle with the shelf in, if that makes sense. Now, I can't tell whether you're using the shelf as a litter box or you have other litter boxes, but I would possibly move over to smaller litter boxes and get rid of the shelves so that you can add in more ropes and big branches. I've mentioned before in this video, I love Java branches. I use them all the time in my cages, and they're really, really easy to clean. And as you mentioned, you have the middle tray in for your access needs. Using things that are easy to clean, I think, is also helpful. So I would really recommend getting some Java branches or similar to be able to fill the cage out. You've got a perspex tray on both levels that is pretty deep, and substrate in both. I would say, if possible, to fill it up even a little bit more. But again, I see foraging toys, lots of different things going on. There's not really any major critiques, just little pointers to maybe help you create a more active layout. Thanks for your submission. So the next cage submission is from Reer, and this is from November 2024. This email was sent. So I understand that anything I say here may have already been improved. I'm just looking at what I can see. Hi, this is my cage for my 2 7-week-old baby rats, Minnie and Pamela. I would be more than happy to get some tips on how to make the cage better. More climbing toys, a wheel, thank you. Don't worry about your English. It's absolutely fine. So, looking at this cage, you've got a good sized cage, so that is a good point. You've got lots of different textures in here already. The couple of things that I would say: 1, deep tray for substrate. 2, probably get rid of this shelf. I don't think it's necessarily, especially for younger rats. I think they would be probably around 8, 9 months old now, so I don't think that would be absolutely necessary. So I would take that out and just add in more ropes and toys and things. I think a lot of people struggle with actually setting up the cage and where to put things. They probably have a good idea of what things they want to put in, but the actual setting up can be quite difficult. So I'll try to do a video on that in the future. But yeah, I don't have any major things to add. I think you covered it in your email, that more things, climbing things, toys, branches. Also, a wheel would be really great, but it's not absolutely necessary. And I would always prefer no wheel than an unsuitable wheel. So yeah, great job. And I'm sure it's improved since you sent this in. Let's have a look at your cute little ratties though. Oh my gosh, that blaze is so cute. I'm a sucker for facial markings. I really am. The next cage is from Mabel, and again, this was sent in October this time of 2024. So anything that I say may already have been implemented, and I'm not sort of judging based on this cage being now, if that makes sense. This cage is from Mabel. Hello, my name is Mabel. I just recently started watching your YouTube videos, and I've been very interested since. I'm 15 years old and have 4 male rats. I've had rats for almost 3 years now, and they've been life-changing. Everything in my cage is bought from my own pocket, and I have a couple of handmade items as well, like the 2 leopard print hammocks. My cage is approximately the same size as a Critter Nation, but my cage is like your old cage where only one side of it opens. The cardboard box on the shelf was originally meant to have hay in it, but it was too dusty for my boys. Picture of 2 of them in the first photo, Minion and Chamberlain. That's an interesting name. P.S. I'm building a perspex base very soon, and I'm aware of the requirements of the large amount of bedding. Is that a double Rex? That is very cute. So, looking at your cage, you are doing it all. There's too many hammocks slightly for my personal taste, but this bridge and height and other sorts of things going on, and the fact that this is all from your own pocket money and you're only a teenager is really, really impressive. Definitely adding in a perspex tray, as you said you were working towards, would be a really great thing. Another thing I would possibly add is a wheel and perhaps some foraging toys. I don't think I see that in this photo, but the fact that you have kitted this out yourself with your own spending money as a teenager is really impressive, and kudos to you. And I'm sure your cage layouts have improved since this is almost 10 months ago now. The next submission is from Gray. Hello, I have 5 rats ranging from 6 months old to over a year old. They're named after a charcuterie board, so we have toast, pimento, brie, ham, and olive. I'm a new rat owner as of 3 months ago, so still learning. Your videos have helped me a lot. I've sewn a full breaker and some hammocks. I've also crocheted a bridge out of thick fleece so their toes don't get stuck. They have boxes so the shelves can have bedding at the bottom of the cage, and a plastic insert so I can have a few inches of bedding there as well. So again, this is from October of 2024. So anything I say, do take with a pinch of salt, because they've probably changed a lot since then. A lot of this does look homemade, which is really great. I love seeing that. I'm not really capable of doing that stuff. That cute? that photo of them in the box with all the hay is really, really cute. So, what I would say about your cage, the first thing is I notice over here on the left-hand side, there is a bit of a gap. And that to me is a bit worrisome that there might be a fall danger here. So I would add something here. Now, I know you're probably, this is definitely not what your cage looks like now. But if I'm looking at this photo and I'm talking to my audience, this is definitely what I would change. Again, I don't see very many branches. Now, I don't know whether this is because branches are not easily available to people, or maybe the cost of them is putting people off. But I would say Java branches, they can be expensive, but they are definitely worth it and they clean up really easily. So I would add a couple of those in. And the other thing is, I think you're using that little tray. I would definitely try and come up with a solution to have more bedding in the bottom there. But I know you're doing everything you can, and I know you will have improved in the almost year since you sent this in. So thank you very much. So the next and penultimate submission is from Rebecca. Let's see what she says. Hi there, here is my cage photos. I know they aren't perfect, and I would love ideas and recommendations. I want more climbing things like big, thick branches. Can never seem to find any. This is about half of all my cage stuff as I rotate between this and the other half when cleaning. I have some extra tunnels, wooden bridges, which will all go back in next time. Anyway, from the top, there is a little tray. There's a little shelf with a chew, hammock, and a foraging toy. To a hanging tunnel, a large hammock, more used for climbing, rope bridge and ledges, down to a wooden bridge and a net, another hammock and more ledges, more tunnels, then going down to a hide, chew toys, their current cardboard box, a wheel, and a few inches of hemp as substrate. With 2 litre trays in the corner and 2 water bottles. I always feel like there is way more when I put the hemp in compared to how it looks after a day. Enough to bury goodies in though. I need a proper tray so I can put more in and keep it in. They usually have a toilet roll or soft paper wool, I think, as bedding, but I need to get some more. So yeah, well, I welcome any and all advice and recommendations. I'm thinking of trying a dig box again. They never seem massively keen on when it's in free roam, but I just got some more cocoa soil so I can put that one in the cage. Cheers and good luck on the vid. Then she sent this next email a little bit after because she originally sent this email too late for me to include in my last one. So this is an extra little bit. Been watching your video, very nice by the way. Feel like I have things I need to work on with mine, like trying to get a better base for them. I'm not able to take up the bottom on my own. I just don't know what is best to put in. I'm thinking about trying plastic board or maybe measuring and order another plastic sheet for the base and somehow attaching them all together. I would say from this picture, from what this cage looks like in this picture, the main things are deep but substrate, which she already knows about, and more big branches, which is another thing that she mentioned. So hopefully Java branches and foraging safe woods like fruit tree woods especially will help you out. I think it's a really great that Rebecca knows what she needs to improve, and hopefully by now she's made those improvements. The last submission is from Jess, and this was also sent in October for the last video that I did, so do take that into consideration. There definitely could be improvements. If you haven't already filmed the video, sorry, this is my cage now. I've connected 2 pet planet cages. The perspex is 36 centimeters high and the substrate is Orbeos. I also have a perspex litter tray. I have 2 tic-tac wheels, one 14-inch and one 16-inch. I use a lot of ropes, branches, chew toys in my cages. There's a few different options for sleeping areas. At the moment I have 16 does who live in this cage. The names are Heidi, Harriet, Hera, Blossom, Willow, Tish, Alora, Tula, Ember, Fern, Daisy, Rizzo, Cookie, Wren, Josie and Autumn. So this is a really great setup. There are lots of branches, ropes, fall breakers, situations going on. You definitely probably could add in more, especially because the cage is so big, and you have a lovely, lovely, lovely deep tray, which is great. One thing I would say about Orbeos is that it's not really great for burrowing, and if you want to use Orbeos and it works well for you, I would recommend mixing it with something else to make it hold tunnels better, because you have this really great amount of floor space and the base is really deep, so it's a perfect setup for burrowing. But Orbeos itself is not great for burrowing in because it's so heavy, so that is one thing that I would say. But other than that, your cage looks great, and I see your cage all the time on Facebook groups, and I know that it's always improving. So do take what I've said in this video with a grain of salt, as I know these submissions are really old now. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. I apologize if I've been repetitive or awkward, and that is mainly because I hate confrontation and making people feel like they maybe have done something wrong, although I know it's really helpful and people love these videos. I do get a bit nervous about that. And also, a lot of these cages were sent in a while ago, so I know improvements will have been made by now, and so perhaps my advice is not necessary. But I do think these videos help in two ways. They help the people who sent them in, but it helps me to express my thoughts and piece of advice about cages in general for other people watching the video so they can improve their care as well. So I just want to say a massive thank you for being vulnerable and sending in your cages for this video. All the people who have in the past as well, massive thank you. Without your submissions, I wouldn't be able to make this video and I wouldn't be able to help people. And I really want to say thank you so much, because a lot of these submissions came with a nice message about me and my videos as well, which really means a lot. And I really do appreciate those messages, because being a content creator, even a small one like me, is not always rainbows and sunshines. There's negatives about it as well. So I really do appreciate those messages. They do make me want to keep going when I have hard days with being online and stuff. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you want to stick around and see more videos about my rats, my journey with my rats, my pets, and as breeding goes along, do stick around and subscribe. Currently, as you're watching this video, I'm actually in New York and will have just visited with my friend Hannah, who I met because of rats on Instagram. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm planning to do a cute little video in New York City. So hopefully that is coming up next week. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye.